the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. Welcome to the Dep Lewis Show, episode 184. This is your host, Dep Lewis, and today is Sunday, June 14th, 2026, a great day for a podcast about video games and more. So I hope you're doing great out there in the world, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. Thank you for being here. The first order of business is to ask you to follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast, so find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch me play some games live or check out the videos later. And if you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you would like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. Now, this show will have three sections as always. The first section, I will tell you about what video games I've been playing since I've last talked to you on this microphone. The mid section, which is not mid in quality, it's the middle of the show. That's where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And there's a couple different video game showcases that took place that I'm excited to tell you about. And the third and final section is the miscellaneous talk section, which is a break from all the video game talk. And I normally like to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. And that would be the case today. And as always, I'm recording before or around or after the Braves game on a Sunday. The Braves are playing in about an hour from real time, so probably enough time to get the podcast recorded and then start watching the Braves today. So that's my plan over here. But the first plan is to do Dep Lewis Show episode 184. So let's get into it. All right. So for the first section of the show, let's talk about what I've been playing. And I'm excited to report something today. And I reported something like this recently. And it's an unexpected occurrence. It's a not normal occurrence, but I have completed another video game. So if you've ever listened to the Dep Lewis Show before, you know I have tried many games. I have fallen off many games. But from time to time, I do come through and complete some games. And this week is one of them. So I have now officially completed my second Pokemon game ever. So I completed Pokemon Leaf Green a couple weeks ago. Very excited about that. Had so much fun with that with the re-release that came out on Switch. It really got me hooked. It got me to play all the way through. And that has in turn, I guess that's what you say, in turn, inspired me to, really push through in my Pokemon Sword playthrough. So I've completed Pokemon Sword. I've taken down all 8 gyms. I've completed the Champion Cup. I've taken down Leon, and they hung my jersey in the rafters up there. So pretty great stuff. And I actually played a good bit of this game last week. So Pokemon Sword has been a game that I played when it came out at launch. I think I completed all 8 gyms. I definitely didn't do the Champion Cup, but I started a brand new file because I no longer had that old file, I don't believe. I started a new file last August, I think is what it looks like according to the Nintendo store. So it's taken me since then to complete this game. I think I was around, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 hours in kind of when I picked it back up. And, since I've talked to you, I think last week, I don't know if it was the 6th gym, but I've definitely completed the 7th and the 8th gym since I've last talked to you. And then I've completed the whole Champion Cup, which was a whole big ordeal. So generally, I had a whole lot of fun with this. The main thing I was going to come report to you this week was, I got my favorite Pokemon in the game. So I was able to get Glaceon last week. I think it was like last Thursday I got Glaceon in the game. So I was able to, I think it's after you complete the 6th gym, it gives you access to be able to get the Rotom Bike upgrade to ride around water. So on Route 9, you saved a scientist from getting bullied by I guess it's like the Team Rocket. I forget what they're called in this game, or maybe they are Team Rocket. You save the scientist and he gives your bike an upgrade that you can start riding over water. And, I looked up that there's a spot off Route 9 in the water where you can go get a ice stone. So I was able to get the ice stone, immediately was able to upgrade my Eevee into a Glaceon, and it was pretty miraculous moment to get, my favorite Pokemon in this game. It's the first time I've played with Glaceon in a Pokemon game since it's been my favorite. And, I just started the momentum of training up Glaceon. And, as I did that, I completed the 7th gym. I completed the 8th gym. I gotta kind of talk about what else I did. I rounded out my team after some of this too. So before the
I think it was after the 8th gym and before the Champion Cup, I rounded out my team a little bit more. I actually captured a Lucario and I captured a Espeon. I did a little bit of a save or system date maneuvering to get them to spawn to be able to capture them, which was, actually pretty easy to do if you just kind of follow some online guides. And I was doing that to round out my squad kind of for the Champions Cup of what I was weak at. So my team that made it through was Inteleon was my starter. Boltund was my favorite pretty much all the way through. Glaceon was an amazing entry about the second half of the game. Who else did I get? I got Lucario, Espeon, and Ninetales was my other Pokemon. And Ninetales actually did really well during the Champion Cup. So I had a really great team. It was really, really cool to get Glaceon. Glaceon lived up to the hype in-game. So, I've been a Pokemon fan since I was a little kid, since it came out. But I've, played the games on and off, never completed one, and kind of gotten into the card game again, in the last couple of years. And, since being in the card game, I've determined that Glaceon is my favorite Pokemon, just based on all the factors of being really, really cool, having some cool cards. And I don't know what necessarily draws you to things sometimes, but Glaceon was the one for me. So I think Glaceon and Boltund right now in this current time are my two favorite Pokemon. Boltund reminds me a lot of my dog Daisy, so I think Boltund will be a favorite for a long time. And I think Pokemon Sword is going to be a favorite for a long time because I had a pretty great time, rounding this game out at the end. So once I got Glaceon, it was pedal to the metal. I was having so much fun with this game. It really enhanced the experience. And I played a lot on that day where I got Glaceon, and then I played a whole lot yesterday. It's been extremely hot, so it's been a good time to be inside, and thankful for air conditioning. And I pushed through. I captured Lucario. Lucario was pretty underleveled, so I had to rank up Lucario before going into the Champion Cup. And I got him up to level 55, and the rest of my team was well above that. And I never really had any trouble in any of the Champion Cup stuff. I was ranked up pretty high, so I just pretty much had to let everything play out. You had to fight a lot of different trainers. You had to do some double battles. There was a couple interruptions at the end. Chairman Rose turned bad, spoiler alert there, but Chairman Rose causing trouble. You have to take him down and Eternatus, which was pretty epic. And then for the last battle, you have to go fight Leon, who tries to finish you off with Charizard. So just a very epic ending. And I think Leon actually ended up being just one of the cooler characters in this game. And I really appreciate how he was kind of happy that he wasn't happy that I beat him, but he, gave me a little tip of the cap at the end and said, hey, good job kind of thing. So just a really good sportsman, a cool character, and, someone that'll be memorable. And even Hop kind of grew on me towards the end. I always kind of thought Hop was annoying, but I think the character arc for Hop towards the end just kind of showed him as a good friend, and his character became a little bit less annoying and just kind of, just more of just kind of like a normal friend. So I did appreciate that from the end. But, the ultimate champ now is me, and it's my team led by Glaceon and Boltund. So it really doesn't get much better than that. I'm pretty excited to say I finished another Pokemon game. And now I guess the real question will be, I'm going to rank at the end of the year for the Dep Lewis Show Awards, my favorite game from a prior year. And I think those two are both going to be very strong contenders. I think I'm maybe just thinking quickly, I'm going to have to give the nod to Leaf Green since that's the one that kind of got me down this track. But Pokemon Sword does have, my favorite Pokemon in it. And I was able to play with them, most of the game, Boltund most of the game, and then Glaceon for about half of the game. So it's been fun thinking about my different teams in the Pokemon game so far. So, and which ones turned into my favorite. And from the first game, my team was, let's think, it was Venusaur. It was Venusaur. It was Lapras. It was Nidoking. It was Raichu. It was Flareon. And I'm missing one more. Venusaur, Flareon, Raichu, Lapras, Nidoking. And I had one more Pokemon in that party. But I think my top three from that game would be Venusaur, Flareon, and Lapras. Oh, Raichu. I guess I don't know if I said Raichu, but Raichu was in my party as well. And Lapras really became my favorite, towards the end, towards the back half. And Lapras is pretty similar, I feel like, to Lucario in Pokemon Sword for me. I got Lucario on the back end, and I think became my third favorite Pokemon from my team in Sword. So my Sword team was Glaceon, Boltund, Ninetales, Inteleon, Lucario, and Espeon. So I definitely like some evolutions. I definitely like dog Pokemon or animal-looking Pokemon like Ninetales or Vulpix and Lucario. I think Lucario was one of the ones who, I guess Lucario and Lapras are now like two new additions that I really didn't expect to my lineup of Pokemon I really like. So I guess that's going to be growing out over time. And I had a wonderful time playing Pokemon Sword, and it's in the books. There's more I could go play. I could go just kind of like Leaf Green, complete my Pokedex some more. There is some DLC stuff with Pokemon Sword, but I think for now, I'm most likely going to move on to another Pokemon game, possibly Pokemon Violet or Pokemon ZA. I'm thinking of restarting my Pokemon ZA file and picking Totodile as my starter. I believe that's the name, Totodile, the water starter. I'm picked Bayleaf to start currently, and I think, from doing some internet research, I think I can build out a team earlier on in the game that I'm going to be more of a fan of, and I think that's really kind of has helped me get through these games. I don't want to say get through, but I'm not generally a person who finishes games kind of quickly, but I think really liking the characters in this game, leveling up Pokemon that I enjoy has been really, really fun. And, I want to try to see if I can continue this trend. So I'll probably be talking about some more Pokemon in the future. But for this week, I have completed Pokemon Sword. So shout out to Glaceon, shout out to Boltund. Those are my two favorite Pokemon in the games and across the card universe right now. And, we'll see how that changes over time. So having so much fun with the Pokemon, and that will probably continue, but most likely in a new game next week. All right, so what else have I been playing in the past week? So that really has been the majority of what I've been playing. That really kicked up around Thursday when I got Glaceon, and then I played a whole lot of this game yesterday to close it out. It felt like, getting close to the end of a book where you probably are reading more or playing more than you would in a typical day, but you're so close to the end and enjoying it that you just kind of push through. So it was fun to have that feeling. It really does kind of relate. I haven't finished a book in a while, but it felt similar to that. So I had fun, but I've been also playing some more Forza Horizon 6 this week. And that was kind of earlier in the week. And then I have been playing some this morning and a little bit later on in the week. But my motivation in Forza Horizon 6 has basically been just open world stuff in the past week. I've basically just been kind of doing some driving around in the opening world, collecting the signs, getting the mascots, and I actually did some races this morning, but basically just going around and collecting things because there is so much of that to be done. And, that's one of the things I haven't, spent a whole lot of time doing. So there's all the general races that you can do that are, I guess it's headband or wristband. I guess it's wristband access that you're trying to get I think there's only one more wristband I can get. There's like 7 different levels, I believe. And then there's a whole nother side of the story where you're completing like tour missions of Japan. So I haven't done really too many of those. So I definitely spent the most time doing the races and less time doing the story driving portions and the collecting. So in the past week, I've basically just been collecting. I've been driving an SUV BMW around the world because it handles well on road and off road, which has been kind of nice. And then my favorite car has still been the Porsche 911 Turbo. I've really been loving my yellow cars in this game, my yellow sports cars. So that trend has still continued. So Forza Horizon 6 is clearly my favorite game of the year for 2026. It's been living up to all the hype, and I've been having so much fun with it. But, I've been taking some Pokemon intermissions in here as well. So those have been the two games kind of dominating my year so far, along with Animal Crossing at the beginning of the year. And I think the Pokemon Forza Horizon train is going to continue. That's what it's looking like to me. So those are the games I've been playing in the past week. This is the year of the front log on the Dep Lewis Show, so the general theme of the year is to look towards the future. I'm not making any backlog list, unless I want to go back and play one of these old games, but I'm not looking to go back to the beginning of a franchise of a new game's coming out. I'm just looking towards the future, and I'm really looking forward to really like day one purchases for me, number one with a bullet kind of thing. And those two on my front log so far for the remainder of the year would be Marvel's Wolverine, which is September 15th from Insomniac Games, one of, or if not my favorite developer in video games. And then Grand Theft Auto 6 on November 19th, which me and everyone else in the world is waiting for. And all the other video game release dates are avoiding like the plague. It's pretty wild to see. So that is the year. A little update on the year of the front log. There's been plenty of other games announced and things that I'm interested in, but those are the two so far that are really going to be like day one. I'm definitely going to be itching to play those and definitely be talking about on this show. So that is everything I got for you for the first section of the show. We talked about, my major update, which is very exciting to me, and I'm very proud and thankful to complete Pokemon Sword. So now I've completed 2 Pokemon games and, patting myself on the back just like I did when I completed Zelda Breath of the Wild. So you'll probably have to hear about that for a little bit, but I had a whole lot of fun doing that. I've been playing some more Forza Horizon 6, and then I gave you an update on the year of the front log for the Dep Lewis Show. So that's everything I got for you for this first section of the show, but there's still a lot of the show left to go. And listen to this music and come back for the midsection of Dep Lewis Show, episode 184 after this. Welcome back to the midsection of Dep Lewis Show, episode 184. This is where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And there is certainly a lot to catch you up on. Last Sunday, I recorded the podcast before the Xbox Game Showcase. So I'm going to catch you up on what took place during the Xbox Game Showcase on this episode. And then we also got a Nintendo Direct to talk about. So those are the two main things I want to cover in this section, and all the announcements and games that I think were cool. But the first thing I want to talk about is some sad or some foreboding, or I guess foreboding is the word, of like something bad coming. And that's is in terms of some Xbox layoffs coming out. So, just to put into context, we had the Xbox show last Sunday, which was June 7th. And overall, I think it was a pretty good show for Xbox. So pretty excited. I think a lot of positive press coming out from the Xbox show, which I'm going to explain in a bit. But then a couple days later, June 10th, we get a letter that CEO of Xbox, Asha Sharma, and I guess Matt Booty sent out to everybody on the Xbox team, who actually works at Xbox. So some I don't want to say interesting quotes. These are going to be some probably sad quotes. So let's just kind of get into it. So upcoming Xbox layoffs is what looks like is on the docket. So Asha Sharma, our new CEO, said, "We just shared on June 10th with our team the realities we need to navigate as we work to reset the Xbox business. We won't succeed by hiding hard truths, nor will we succeed by doing the same thing and expecting different results." So, I enjoy reading a corporate quote. They're all generally pretty the same with these corporate shakeups. I think this one in general is a little bit more transparent. I don't think it makes it, I know it doesn't make it any better, but they're really kind of saying, hey, we made some mistakes in here, which I think is nice. But I think more and more, I'm thinking that they should really say less in regards to this would kind of be my advice on this, because, layoffs are just a tough thing either way. There's going to be no way you can spin cycle your way out of this. And I think I'm sure this was intentional by this company to have this, have the Xbox Game Showcase and then announce this right after. I mean, that's how these things work, and it shows you a little bit of the shisty nature of what's going on here with these, or the shisty things that can happen with these corporations. So, you got to take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt with these things, and ultimately, you're just buying a product from them, and if you like the product and buy it, then that's cool. But, they're not out here just trying to help gamers all the time like they like to present. And I think people are, and myself, are getting a little bit tired of that, if not all the way tired of, especially someone like a CEO position, really trying to relate to you while having to make these decisions. It's just like those two things. I guess the word would be incongruent, or why do we need them to, if they are a gamer, and that's nice, but if they're not, I don't think it's completely necessary to be running one of these giant companies, and I know it's not. So let's see here. So these are some of the quotes from the message that they sent entitled "The Next 100 Days in Xbox Reset" from Asha and Matt. So, very personal there, just saying Asha and Matt. So this was a really, really long thing. You can go read it yourself, and I'm just kind of going to highlight a few of the paragraphs that I think are the most important. So the first one is, they say, "We are in a hardware component crisis." So this is everything that everyone is complaining about, which I guess rightfully so. But when I joined as CEO in February, Asha Sharma, the price we paid for console storage components was over 2 times as high as we paid last fall. These costs have since doubled again, and as we plan for the 2027 holiday season, we expect another significant increase, taking us over 5 times the prices we paid only 2 years earlier. Memory costs have followed a broadly similar trajectory. While the entire industry is facing a component crisis, we believe that we have been impacted more greatly than our peers due to the choices we made over the last decade, or last half decade. We are currently unable to make as many consoles as players want to buy, and we need a business model and partnership for hardware as we remain committed to Helix. So, getting into this, one of the last quotes in there, "We are currently unable to make as many consoles as players want to buy." I mean, I really don't see how that is true, because you're able to go buy an Xbox right now if you want to. So that must be something like a forecast number or something, but that one really didn't make sense and stood out to me when I saw that. But, the main takeaway from this is, I'm tired of hearing about the reasons why, and hearing these long explanations of why the prices, or why these bad these bad decisions are happening. I understand they're having to pay more, But as a person who's just going to buy their products, ultimately, I don't care. And if your product's going to be too expensive, I'm not going, or it's going to make me less likely to buy it, most likely, unless it's something I just really want to have. So I think explaining this is all for naught. It's probably just wasted breath. I guess maybe they do investor calls as well, but this one's being sent out to like internal employees. And I'm sure they're looking at it too, like, hey, we don't care that you're paying more for these parts. We know that's troublesome and it's cutting into your margins, but everything's not going to be up and to the right all the time. And that's just not the way the world works. And I think a lot of these companies get in the mindset where, everything has to be a smash hit all the time. And that's not true in any regard of life. There's ups and downs within a day, within an hour, within 30 minutes. I think that's just natural. And I think a lot of these companies operate on the model of, hey, we're up and to the right all the time. And I guess that's why they're so successful. But I think that's going to, I think people already are played out of it. But, so, explaining woe is me, the prices are going up, we're having to pay more. But, the thing I always look back to, Microsoft, who owns Xbox, they made $101 billion in net income in 2025. That's net income. They're not hard up for money. This is them giving you more inside baseball on like bad decisions they made. And this is a drop in the bucket ultimately for Microsoft. I mean, maybe not a drop in the bucket, but you can maybe classify it as that. And it's just, I don't know if the word's like, they're definitely giving you the spin zone. All these companies, everyone's giving you the spin zone on things and trying to make themselves look good. But I don't know. I think some of this stuff's harder and harder to cover up. And I don't think anyone's feeling bad about them having to pay higher prices for component costs. Yes, just being a nice person, you would maybe wish they were paying a lower price. Why not? But, I'm not going to be losing any sleep over them having to pay extra prices to ship these products that they built a business around that maybe they've just made mistakes other ways, and they're, just blaming this one thing. That's kind of what it feels like a little bit. It's like taking a convenient out of a bunch of other bad decisions and pinpointing this one as like, hey, a really, really big driving factor. But I don't think Xbox is as popping and they're not as popping as they were. They're definitely not. I mean, that's just a fact. So we're going through the quotes from the upcoming Xbox layoffs. So that's the one about the hardware component. So, everyone's having trouble with that. And that seems universally true. So back to a more quote from Asha and Matt. Our current platform infrastructure is not built for the battle ahead. I mean, that sounds almost like a white flag. Our systems are overly complex. I guess this is kind of blaming prior regimes a little bit, putting some of this stuff on the past, they said the past half decade. So, as you come in, you definitely want to change some things up. So there's going to be a little bit of throwing under the bus going on, which I guess this is what's happening here. We become too reliant on vendors to operate our systems and must become more self-reliant as an engineering culture to build for the future. We must increase the value we ship to players while decreasing the time it takes to do so. Going forward, we'll evolve and rebuild our stack and look at capabilities across all of Xbox and potential M&A. I don't know what that is, to help us, or I don't know what that is. Maybe I typed that wrong. To help us win in hardware, PC, mobile, and streaming. So another one. I know anybody who works there is not really caring about these reasons. They just kind of want to know where they fit into this. And, I think that's probably how the majority of people feel. And they also say, for some of you, these realities will be surprising. This is the biggest red flag from here if you work there. These realities will be surprising and even frustrating to discover. We won't succeed by hiding hard truths, nor we will succeed by doing the same thing and expecting different results. Like the everyday wins mentality from the first 100 days, we will sprint to make progress against hardware, content, experience, and services together. And everyday wins, that couldn't be a bigger cliche or overused cliche than across the world. So I don't know. The corporate quotes are going to corporate quote. And either way, I think they're bracing for large layoffs, which is very sad for all those people involved. And, I'll definitely keep you up to date on what's going on with that. So I still think they're floundering. I think they were making some good progress. I think this is definitely going to be a really big backpedal and backtrack on that progress they've been making. And they've also been making some other decisions in there. I just think maybe they're too far gone. And maybe they, just slashing a few things is not going to magically change up the trajectory of Xbox. But, I don't have the answers. I'm just the guy over here on the Dep Lewis Show talking about it. So, so that's the general update. We're expecting some Xbox updates coming, which are seeming like they're going to be substantial. So I'll just keep you updated on those. I wanted to kind of set the scene here for, we're going to talk about a positive Xbox show that took place last week, but, just a couple of days after they're announcing the beginning of some layoffs. So, sad stuff there. But let's get into, the fun thing to talk about, which is the video games. And that's the thing that I do enjoy talking about. I enjoy looking at some of this corporate stuff, but I definitely feel for the people that are going to be involved in these layoffs. And, we see this so many times recently in the video game world. And I think overall it's bad. Well, I know it's bad overall because it's affecting a lot of people. It's not helping games get out the door. And, it's even hurting these companies' pockets, which, they don't want their pockets to be hurting. And, a lot of bad things are taking place in this mix. But the Xbox game showcase took place last Sunday, June 7th, and it was immediately followed by the Gears of War E-Day Direct. I really didn't end up tuning in for the Gears of War E-Day Direct because they opened the Xbox game showcase with Gears of War E-Day and showed off some cool stuff with that. So this was their 25th anniversary for Xbox, and they were excited to share upcoming games from their first-party studios as well as partners from around the globe. So I'm going to tell you the things that I thought were most cool. As always with these showcases, I'm not going to talk about all the games, so if you go watch this for yourself, you might see some things in there that you might fit your particular style, but I'm going to go over the highlights and all the things that I thought looked cool to me or just cool in general. So they led the show off with Gears of War E-Day, which was really, really nice. It shows off the moment the world fell and the bond between Marcus Phoenix and Dominic Santiago begins. So Marcus and Dom, it shows them in street clothing, responding to the Locust Horde, I guess, popping up through the city. So pretty wild to see. Interesting to see that they're not wearing their giant armor. They're a little slimmer. They look just kind of more of like a standard human in this game, which is interesting. And one thing from the early scenes in this game that I thought was cool was that it's way more colorful. So Gears is generally a pretty dark game. You're underground a lot of times. You're in cityscapes and things like that. But in this game, it starts off with a whole lot more color. So a definite nice pop for a Gears of War game and definitely stood out. So the couple of announcements here. They have announced that the open beta for this game is going to begin on August 6th. And the release date for Gears of War E-Day, this was an announcement too, was going to be October 6th. So there's a million games coming out in September. They're going to start off a little bit in October, early October, trying to get away from mid-November with GTA. And something else that Asha Sharma announced, she says, as part of our focus on the return of Xbox, this is going to be an Xbox console exclusive, along with Clockwork Revolution. So we've seen PlayStation do this. We've seen Xbox do this now. They've started putting some of their exclusives onto other platforms, and now they are reconsidering some of those decisions. It seems like it's going to be a case-by-case basis, and they are trying to get back some brand identity here, but it's a little bit strange. I guess they tested the waters last year with releasing Gears of War Reloaded, which is a remake of Gears 1 on PS5. So definitely kind of a strange thing to see on a PlayStation 5. And, now they're backtracking on that a little bit. So I am a little bit curious if Forza Horizon 6 is still going to come out on PlayStation 5. We haven't gotten a date for that yet. It's been highly successful, it seems like, for Xbox early this year. It seems like another one they might want to grab back if they're trying to restart their console identity. But I think some of these, they said games already announced for multi-platform releases will stick to that plan. We're committed to investing in and growing Xbox both on console and beyond. So, a little bit of having their cake and eating it too, dipping their feet in both. So just a little bit strange. I'm thinking a little bit more and more, and maybe I should just always be thinking like this. The Xbox is just, really working the spin zone. Some of this stuff I think Asha Sharma was doing a good job of really presenting as being truthful and just kind of keeping it real. But there's the spin zone going on around here, and they're doing it in here with we're trying to keep these exclusives, but then on the back end there's an asterisk, unless it's financially beneficial to put it on another console. So another thing that just your average gamer or just a gamer is not really going to care about. Not going to care about those business dealings. They're going to care if it's a game they want to play and if they own the console and if they can afford the console and if they can afford the game. These are really just more of the considerations. I don't think anybody really truly is, or no one really should be invested on if Xbox is back unless you are working Xbox. Unless you, just like anything, you can be happy that something you like is thriving. Like if you're a fan of a sports team, if they're doing well, you can be happy. But if they're doing poorly or whatever, you shouldn't hopefully let it affect your actual life. But, those things bleed in together all the time, but it's something, definitely want to differentiate between. So Gears of War E-Day going to be an Xbox exclusive is the announcement, and it's going to release on October 6th is the other announcement. All right, so for the Xbox Game Showcase, they also showed off some more of Halo Campaign Evolved, which is a remake of Halo 1, which I really was kind of unsold on. I am a huge Halo fan, but I've played a ton of Halo in my life, and I've played a bunch of Halo 1 in my life, and I don't know if I necessarily need to again, but, showing this off, it definitely looks impressive. You're able to play in third-person mode, which is interesting, and, you haven't been able to do before, so that could be kind of a new wrinkle on this, and, the game just in general does look beautiful, so a little bit of definitely a huge nostalgia blast. I'm about to say a little bit for me of looking at this, but I'm not entirely sold that I need to play it again, but they did a good job in this trailer of selling it for, older fans like me and probably new fans as well. So Halo Campaign Evolved is going to release on July 28th. So only about a month and a couple weeks away from real time if you're listening to this. It's coming out for Xbox Series, PlayStation 5 still, and PC. There was rumors that I think Asha Sharma pulled a Halo trailer from the Sony show, and another rumor that she pulled a poster down or whatever in the Sony area. I don't know if any of that stuff was true, but it's a fun speculation to think about of how these companies are handling their exclusives that, just a year ago they were so excited to bring onto other platforms, and now they're back telling you how meaningful it is to keep them on their side. So, they're out here waffling in public, and it's just all a little bit silly. All right. So what else in the Xbox Game Showcase? They showed off some more Fable, and Fable now actually has a release date. So this one got, I think a couple weeks ago, they just said, hey, we're going to delay this one into 2027, and now it officially has a date after the show, I believe is the case. So Fable, Playground Games announces that it's going to release on February 23rd, 2027 for Xbox Series, PlayStation 5, and Steam. It's another one that's still going to be a multi-platform release. Become the hero you want to be in an immersive open-world action RPG where each choice shapes your journey. Reputation is everything, and fairy tale endings are never guaranteed. So I think they did a good job in this trailer of showing that off and really highlighting that the choices are going to shape your journey, because I think that's one of the cooler systems and mechanics in Fable. And I think they made the trailer look like nice and whimsical. I just don't know. I'm still a little bit weary of this, but I think they're, showing off some good stuff with this game. I think they're kind of saying the right things, but as always, the execution is going to be more important than what people are telling us. So Fable gets a release date of February 23rd, 2027. All right, this next one is definitely an exciting announcement and surprising to me that developer Toys for Bob has announced the first original Spyro game in almost 2 decades. So it's called Spyro: A Realm Beyond. This is a brand new adventure featuring a new world, expanded exploration, and gameplay innovations, while true Dragonflight allows players to freely soar through the game's environments. This one's going to release in spring 2027 is all we know for release date. It's coming to Switch 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and Steam. So Spyro, beloved PlayStation franchise, the Spyro trilogy, I guess sold really, really well. It was on sale recently too, if you wanted to pick it up for about $10. I've never completed the Spyro game. I do own the trilogy. I played a good portion of the first game, or at least maybe half of it. I think Spyro is one of the coolest looking characters. It's just something that I was more on the Xbox side of things growing up, so I don't have the big nostalgic, or like the first-hand nostalgic blast from Spyro, but I think if I had a PlayStation, I would have been a huge fan because it's kind of right up my alley with like cute, cool characters and platformers. So Spyro: A Realm Beyond has been announced, and I'm very excited for that. And that one's definitely going to be would be on like the front log for 2027 for me. All right, these next couple of games are related in a great way. And this first one was a world premiere teaser and the official announcement of Persona 6. And this one, they're saying, brings everything beloved about the series into a bold new standalone story. So Persona 5 originally released on the PlayStation 3, so a couple generations ago. It's gone through, the iteration of becoming royal. It's gotten the next-gen updates for the modern gen. So, they've had a lot of time to be cooking on Persona 6. They've been doing these other remakes of their older games, but I think this one's it's been in development for a while, and they finally feel confident enough to, say, hey, it's really, really happening. But it was a really minimal trailer. Green is going to be the overall theme of this game, so very interesting. It definitely looks spookier and a little bit more, I don't want to say horror, but definitely a spookier vibe than you might initially get from looking at a trailer for Persona 3 or Persona 4. So very excited about this. I played it like, I've done the restart thing. I'm restarting Persona 5 a few times, maybe getting 20, 30 hours in and then falling off. I've done it with Persona 3. But I could see myself, getting more and more into Persona as time goes on and hopefully finishing one of these games in the future. But, they're very long games and, I'm making my way, so we'll see. But Persona 6 officially announced, and I think that one is probably, I'm sure it's not going to be next year. Maybe the following year would be my guess on that. But they've also shown off some more Persona 4 Revival, and they've also given us a release date for that, which is going to be February 18th, 2027. So I think February for next year is already shaping up to be a very packed year with good games, and I think that's been kind of the case for a while. I think we get some early year games nowadays, which has been really, really nice, or a nice trend to see. But in Persona 4 Revival, you can join your friends in Inaba for a full reimagining of the modern classic RPG, featuring enhanced visuals, improved gameplay, modern aesthetics, and quality of life updates that bring the classic to life like never before. So this is one I'm definitely interested in playing. I've been making some progress on Persona 3 Reload here and there, but I think Persona 4 looks really, really great. If I had to rank them outright on just like vibes and look, I think Persona 3 would be my favorite, Persona 4, and then Persona 5, but I think they're all really, really cool and amazing, and if I could snap my fingers and complete them all today, I would. So, maybe one day I will be a Persona franchise game completer. I don't know. That's a terrible way to say it. But, recently I completed my first Zelda game after playing a bunch of Zelda games and never completing one. I've completed now 2 Pokemon games after playing a bunch of Pokemon games over the year and never completing them. So, at least on somewhat of a good track there. But it might just be those franchises I really like, but Persona might be one of those too. All right. So what else was talked about in the Xbox Game Showcase? A couple more things to tell you about. They gave us a release date for Castlevania Belmont's Curse. This one is going to be a multi-platform release, but they showed off some more of the 2D action exploration game from Konami, Evil Empire, and Motion Twin, the creators of Dead Cells. It definitely has a great Dead Cells vibe. Dead Cells did the Castlevania DLC, so this one just looks a little bit more like, Castlevania with some Dead Cells style to it. So, a really, really amazing concept there, and this one's going to release on October 15th. All right, they have also shown a all-new installment of Sega's classic driving action series, Crazy Taxi. So they're showing lead character Axel on an exciting high-speed ride along the city streets before a mysterious driver arrives and sets him off on an international adventure. So the new game adds an in-depth story campaign that unfolds across 5 unique cities, online multiplayer racing, car customization, and a revamped classic mode, all while maintaining the spirit that made the original an icon. The new Crazy Taxi is set to launch in 2027 for Switch 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. So this is another game, I guess, maybe because I didn't have a PlayStation growing up that, I don't have the first-hand nostalgia of, but I have played maybe some Crazy Taxi like in an arcade, or there was an Xbox 360 release, maybe just played like a minimal version. But this game is definitely, what did they say? They say an icon. I think that's definitely true from, the origins of some video gaming, or, back in like the early stages of video games. And I think this one's been a long awaited return, and I'll be excited to see what they're doing with Crazy Taxi in 2027. All right, this last game that I want to tell you about is something that I've never heard about, but I think the art style and the vibes of this look so cool. I wanted to tell you about it today, and it's called Vivarium. This was the world premiere of this game. It's a life sim adventure inspired by classic cel-drawn anime TV shows and films. It's going to be arriving in 2027. Xbox Series and PC so far, it looks like, for the release. It's being developed by Studio Meadowflower and published by Serenity Forge. And it's a non-linear narrative shaped by players' choices. But I think the most striking thing is the art style, the cel-drawn animations that definitely looks like an anime TV show and film. So very interesting and very cool look at Vivarium in the Xbox Game Showcase. And last thing I want to tell you about from the Xbox Game Showcase was they announced what do they call this? An anniversary console. So they're going to bring a translucent design to Xbox Series X. This thing really does look amazing. So please go check this out. And if you're looking to buy an Xbox, maybe this would be the one to buy, especially if you're willing to pay some more money, because this one's going to be it's a limited edition, so it's going to cost some more. But it's drawing inspiration from the original Xbox, and it's a translucent OG green that so many players remember. The console and controller will be available as a limited edition collection in select markets in November, and the controller will also be available separately. So this will be a really, really cool thing for someone to get during the holidays, and I'll be interested to see what they price this. My guess is it's going to be like at least $800, somewhere in that range, and I wonder how much stock and how easy they'll be to get. It does say in there limited edition, select market, so who knows. But I don't think Xbox, I think you're able to buy Xboxes, even though they're saying they can't ship enough for what people want to buy. You can go into a store right now and buy an Xbox. So that one looks extremely cool. Do have to give it to it. The Xbox Series X is a cool console, and this has to be one of the cooler looking versions of it. So that was everything from the Xbox Game Showcase I wanted to tell you about. We talked about Gears of War E-Day, Halo Campaign Evolved, Fable, Spyro, A Realm Beyond, Persona 6, Persona 4 Revival, Castlevania Belmont's Curse, Crazy Taxi, Vivarium, and the new Xbox 25th Anniversary Console edition of the Xbox Series X. So that was everything from the Xbox show. Overall, I thought it was pretty good. I was definitely excited about the announcement of Persona 6. I was definitely excited to get the release date of Persona 4. Spyro, a new Spyro is a cool announcement. I have halfway interest in Fable of being a fan of those old games. This showcase sold me a little bit more on Halo Campaign Evolved. I am all the way in on Gears of War E-Day. I'm looking forward to that. Maybe should go ahead and put that one. I don't know if I want to put that one on my front log. I'd maybe like to play 5 before. I know E-Day is a prequel to the entire series, but I've played all the games kind of in order so far, so maybe I would want to complete 5 before trying to play E-Day, and I definitely will be having other games to play before then, but that one might be one that sneaks into my front log list because I do enjoy some Gears of War. But so that's everything on the Xbox side of things. So we talked about those Xbox layoffs and upcoming layoffs, and we talked about the Xbox Showcase. But also last week we got a Nintendo Direct. So this one took place on Tuesday, June 9th, followed by a Nintendo Treehouse Live, which ended up showing off more of Star Fox. So if you want to go watch this on Nintendo's YouTube, the total video is around 2.5 hours. As this one, as always, I'm not going to talk about all the games shown, but I'm going to talk about the highlights and what I think was most cool from the Nintendo Direct. And I guess kind of like the least surprising, but it was the thing that I was waiting for and a lot of people were waiting for throughout the show to be announced, was the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake. So that is real. The Nintendo 64 Classic returns for a new generation in 2026, reborn exclusively for Nintendo Switch 2. So they really just showed one frame of this game. It's Link laying in the bed at the beginning of the game. So right when he wakes up, goes out there and has to go talk to the Deku Tree, or has to go, get a sword and get a shield before he goes and talks to the Deku Tree. It shows that same shot. So that's all they showed. It was right at the end of the show. Teaser to the max, and something I'll be excited and interested to play possibly. This is a game that I played a bunch of growing up with myself, with friends, with family. I never completed it myself. It's something I've, played a couple, jumped back into a couple times in more recent years, never made any significant progress in recent times. So this could be a perfect opportunity for me to get back to try to complete this game and see what I think overall about the Ocarina of Time. But classic video game. Some people probably have this, or a lot of people probably have this as their favorite video game, and I think rightfully so. So it'll be interesting to see what they do to this game on the Switch 2 version, what they're going to change, how it's going to look, and I think those are some of the trickiest questions with the remakes, as always. So definitely the biggest, most exciting announcement from the Nintendo Direct, and they made you wait to the very end and only showed a little bit. And that was kind of the case as well. Kind of the two biggest releases for Switch this year, or I would consider, would be that, because that's been rumored for a while. And then another really big one is the Duskbloods. This is the game being developed and published by From Software exclusively for Nintendo Switch 2. So that's a really big deal. So they showed this game for like maybe 3 seconds in this trailer as well. So pretty much no information. I don't even know if they showed any gameplay. It was basically just a teaser. So they did mention this game in this show though. So I wanted to mention that here early. No update on the release date. It's still showing 2026 as a window. All we know, we're halfway done with 2026 at this point. So, I think some of these people saying summer. So summer or 2026, I think they need to get on the date. Otherwise, I think myself and other people are going to be suspicious. But they did announce the Duskbloods is getting a closed network test. It's coming out later this summer is all they said. And they said, please look forward to more information, including on how to register. The Duskbloods, they say in this game, you can become a Bloodsworn of Dusk, a supernatural being imbued with special abilities by the power of blood, and leap into online battles of up to 8 players. The Bloodsworn have been summoned to do battle at the dusk of humanity, form transient alliances and bitter rivalries alike as you take on enemies and compete for the fight for the right to first blood. Available for Switch 2 only, and that is the Duskblood. So, not a lot shown, but they did acknowledge its existence, and they say it's still coming in 2026, so we will see. All right. And overall for this Nintendo show, I got to say I was a little bit, my whelms were not over. They were underwhelmed. And I think this was overall just kind of mid. I'm sure there's going to be some things in here I'm going to end up liking, but I just think it was kind of a lackluster show in general. And basically because they barely showed any of Ocarina of Time, it would have been nice to see. I think if they would have shown off a little bit of that could have changed my view on this whole thing a little bit, but I think overall pretty weak. But I think the coolest announcement outside of the first two, or talking about Ocarina and Duskbloods, was the announcement of the new Xenoblade game. It's going to be called Xenoblade Genesis. So Xenoblade is something I think just looks cool from afar. I've tried a little bit of the first game and I've tried a little bit of X, but maybe not even a couple hours. It's something I've thought about getting into different times and maybe would in the future. And I think this one looks especially cool. It's called Xenoblade Genesis, so it's a new beginning for the Xenoblade series. It's coming to Nintendo Switch 2 in 2027, and they said more details will be shared in the future. So I think this would be, I guess with Xenoblade, there is a continuation of a story, so it's a little bit tricky if you'd want to start on 2 or 3. I think they do a decent job of saying, hey, you can if you want to. I think a lot of games do that, or at least acknowledge or recognize that, but putting a game at the beginning is a great entry point for new fans, and old fans can give a different perspective on what's going on. So I think overall it's a pretty cool concept. And this is one that I didn't expect to be interested in or even looking for, but Xenoblade Genesis is, definitely on my radar for sure. So that one's going to be coming out in 2027. No more details on that one really. But they also announced that Xenoblade 1, which is called Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition on Switch, is going to be getting a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. So basically Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 are all getting Switch 2 editions. The Xenoblade 1 Switch 2 edition is available now. You can buy the Switch 2 edition digitally for $69.99 USDs. The upgrade pack, if you own the game on Switch 1, and you want to get the Switch 2 version, it'll cost you $9.99 USDs. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Switch upgrade is coming on July 30th. The Xenoblade Chronicles 3 upgrade is going to be December 3rd. And I think that's the case. I'm not sure. I was a little bit unsure on typing this in, but they have announced these 3 games, Switch 2 versions coming, and they have also announced physical versions if you want to buy the Switch 2 version. So I think, maybe those are the end of July, beginning of October, and beginning of December. But, I'm not all the way sure. I do think the first Xenoblade, you're able to play the Switch 2 version right now, and that one and Xenoblade X, but the Xenoblade X one came out earlier in the year. So some pretty good Xenoblade news. It's nice to get the Switch 2 editions. It's never nice to really have to pay for them, but nice for people coming in who haven't played before to get the latest and greatest version if they want to. So I was definitely excited for that, and that was a surprise for me, Xenoblade Genesis getting announced. They showed off some more of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. They have also announced this game is coming to Switch on September 17th, or Nintendo Switch 2 on September 17th. This one's exclusive to Switch 2. The heroic games are about to begin. A brand new entry in the Fire Emblem series is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 system. Discover an intertwining story of strength and steel alongside 4 new heroes. Kai, who's a young boy determined to save his imprisoned father. Dietrich, or to save his imprisoned father. And then Dietrich as a swordsman ever on the hunt for a stronger foe. And then Theodora as a queen seeking to fulfill the long-held dream of her homeland. And Leda as a musician, or Leda as a musician with her sights set on revenge. Between your matches in the heroic games, you can explore the capital city of Dagzion, learn new techniques at the training ground, strengthen bonds to recruit new allies, and travel outside Dagzion's walls to gain additional experience. So overall, this one looks pretty cool. I completed Fire Emblem Three Houses, and that was the first Fire Emblem game I've completed. I played Fire Emblem Engage for a while, but kind of fell off after a certain point. I thought the story and protagonist were particularly weak. I think the gameplay is definitely the strength of those games, but I think Three Houses did a good job of the story stuff and the characters around it more so than Engage. So I really don't know which way this one's going to be leaning. So that would kind of be my question going into the release of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave on September 17th. And this one's going to be $69.99 USD's digital. And then if you want to buy the physical, it's $79.99 physical. So that's going to be the case with a lot of Nintendo first-party games going forward. The digital version is going to be $10 less expensive than the physical versions. All right, so the Nintendo Direct, they also announced Nintendo Switch Sports Resort. So I think this is pretty cool. This one didn't really get too much of a pop for me, but you know, the Wii is definitely nostalgic for me. I played a lot of those motion games back then. I don't know if I would be looking to play these currently, but I mean, you never know. I think this looks pretty cool. I think this is probably going to be a great seller of copies and systems. So Nintendo Switch Sports Resort has been announced, and the games begin in Nintendo Switch Sports Resort for Nintendo Switch 2 on October 22nd. So just some months away, you can return to Woohoo Island with the Nintendo Switch Sports Resort, a new entry in the series coming exclusively to Nintendo Switch 2. You can create a Mii character or sports mate, then get up and moving with intuitive motion controls that use Joy-Con 2 controllers in a variety of ways, as rackets, bows, and even handlebars across 12 sports. Team up or challenge friends and family, or play solo in new and returning sports like boxing, table tennis, archery, regular tennis, volleyball, bowling, basketball, golf, and thumb wrestling, which they showed off extensively in this trailer. And also leisure sports like skateboarding, using the Joy-Con 2 mouse controls, power cruising, and prop playing. You can also do some warm-ups with the jump rope. So this is something that, families are going to love to play. Younger people are going to love to play. Older gamers, younger gamers. This one's going to be probably a universal hit. And Nintendo Switch Sports Resort is releasing on Switch 2 on October 22nd. All right, what else did they show off in the Nintendo Direct I want to tell you about? They showed off some more Star Fox. They also did the Nintendo Treehouse after dedicated to Star Fox. So if you want to see some footage of that, you definitely can. But the bit of news I wanted to bring to you about Star Fox is there is a demo available right now. So this is pretty cool. I thought about downloading this myself just to see how the game is looking and running. I already have played Star Fox back in the day, so it's going to be pretty close. But this new Star Fox is a cinematic take on the Star Fox 64 game. Star Fox features newly overhauled character designs, freshly revamped looks for each stage, plus detailed cutscenes, fully voiced dialogue, and a sweeping orchestral soundtrack. The game also offers an optional mouse-controlled targeting with the Joy-Con 2 controllers and a brand new game chat feature that puts you in the cockpit as your favorite characters from the Star Fox universe. So you're able to experience all the classic action plus new modes, including online multiplayer as you embark on a dangerous mission to save the Lilat system. Star Fox launches for Nintendo Switch 2 on June 25th. It's going to be $49.99 for the digital copy of that game. And Star Fox is a great game, so if they stay somewhat true to the original game, this should be a good game as well. I definitely, I'm appreciative that it's $49.99 and not like a $79 game, because Star Fox is a pretty short game, but it definitely evokes replayability because there's different paths you can take, but I think there's maybe only like a handful of paths you can take at most. But having the updated character designs and graphics look really, really cool. And I think there is some additional stuff in here as well. Maybe some new scenes or whatever it may be. But I'll be interested to see what people think about this. And Star Fox, we can all kind of find out on June 25th. All right, they showed off some more of Rhythm Heaven Groove, which I'm interested in. I've never played a Rhythm Heaven game, but I've always kind of been interested in them. So they showed off more of this. This one's going to be $39.99 digital USDs. And this one's going to release on July 2nd for Switch 1 and 2. So you can get it even if you own a Switch 1 still. Rhythm Heaven Groove, you can tune in and groove to a collection of games that will challenge your rhythm. See if you can time your button presses to the beat across new rhythm games that are easy to learn and rewarding to master. Over 80 rhythm games for solo play and over 30 for co-op and competitive multiplayer. So I think especially if you play games locally or just with groups of friends online all the time, I think this was an extremely good trailer of showing off how fun this could be. And I think even the single player and stuff, I think the single player stuff has been the highlight for this as well. But adding in what looks like kind of Mario Party style or I don't want to say that as like a negative thing, but mini games in here, or like WarioWare that make the rhythm game. You could be having fun with your friends as well, which I think is a really, really good addition to this game. I don't have any familiarity with Rhythm Heaven Groove, so I don't know how much multiplayer or other person involvement was in the older games, but definitely like a cool concept, and looks like something that especially if you played a lot of games locally, you'd want to have this in there because it looks really, really fun. So Rhythm Heaven Groove is coming out for Nintendo Switch 1 and 2 on July 2nd. And then the last thing, well, not the last thing, but the last, I have a little block of third-party games they announced to tell you about at the end of the Direct, but they have announced a brand new HD 2D Final Fantasy adventure called Final Fantasy Resonance. This one's coming to Switch 1 and 2 on October 22nd. I guess it looks a little bit more in line on like the Final Fantasy Tactics side of things, so maybe that one. I guess this has been in development before that, but this one's coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Steam, and Switch 1 and 2. So they have announced the brand new HD 2D Final Fantasy adventure, and this is the first HD 2D game in the franchise, which is a very popular style right now. Featuring the turn-based battles the franchise has been known for, the game features a strategic battle system, dramatic story and cutscenes, voice characters, and even the ability to traverse an overworld via chocobo and airship. Final Fantasy Resonance also pays tribute to all the games in the mainline Final Fantasy franchises with recruitable visions in the forms of classic characters like Cloud, Tifa. They wrote Terra, but I don't know if Terra's a Final Fantasy character that I don't know, but I do know Tifa and Clive, who can join battles and unleash special moves. So like I said, this one's coming out on October 22nd. It definitely is a cool thing and something that I did not expect. And Final Fantasy has been, going strong for a long time, and it doesn't look like that's going to be slowing up anytime soon. All right, the last couple of announcements from the Nintendo Direct I want to tell you about is just all third-party games that have been out on other platforms that are coming to Nintendo Switch 2. So we're going to run through these kind of quickly. But Devil May Cry 5 Devil Hunter Edition is launching for Nintendo Switch 2 on June 23rd. Liza P, the Complete Edition, which includes the haunting prequel expansion Liza P Overture, alongside the base game in one seamless package. I think Liza P Overture just really came out in the last couple of years, so pretty cool to be getting that. Liza P Complete Edition is going to be releasing on Nintendo Switch 2 on August 6th. Dragon's Dogma 2 Dark Arisen is an expanded version of Dragon's Dogma 2 sets, and you can set off for this adventure on Nintendo Switch 2 on October 9th. Metaphor ReFantazio, which is one that I would like to play on my Switch 2 possibly. This is something that I played a little bit of on Xbox when it released, fell off, and I think the Switch 2 could be a perfect place to play since I've been enjoying playing some RPGs in handheld and on my TV. So Metaphor ReFantazio from Atlas is coming to Nintendo Switch 2 on November 12th. And then Stellar Blade has been announced, which is really, really impressive because this is an impressive looking game on PlayStation 5, and it's going to launch on Nintendo Switch 2 in 2026 is all we know. But very exciting, and I think just a really, really great sign for Nintendo Switch in general. I think the fact that it has its Nintendo first-party stuff is obviously a huge selling point, but I think the Switch 2 is becoming the third-party machine that everyone kind of wished it would be. I think a lot of companies are seeing the value in optimizing their games to put them on Switch 2, and that makes me very happy as someone who kind of would enjoy having all my games kind of in one place or one system that I primarily play on, or have the option to play on if you want to. And then having the option between handheld and TV for these games is just really, really fun. It might be a different way than you played these games previously. So I think that's just a really, really nice touch. So overall, I'm not hurting for games to play on the Nintendo Switch or Switch 2, but I think, there's definitely, I think this Nintendo Direct was overall a little bit underwhelming, but I'm sure there's going to be some games that I grow to like over time, and hopefully we'll all be, and myself included, excited and hype about the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake when that releases this year is what they're saying. So that's everything that took place in the Nintendo Direct. We talked about the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake, the Duskbloods, Xenoblade Genesis, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, Nintendo Switch Sports Resort, Star Fox, Rhythm Heaven Groove, Final Fantasy Resonance, and then we talked about the third-party games like Devil May Cry 5 Devil Hunter Edition, Lives of P Complete Edition, Dragon's Dogma 2 Dark Arisen, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Stellar Blade. So that's everything from the Nintendo Direct I want to tell you about. And there's just a couple more things I want to tell you about to close out the midsection. It was a crazy week in video game news. I definitely said on the podcast last week, I'm like, hey, maybe next week's going to be a little bit slower. And, I was either not remembering that there was going to be a Switch 2 or just, really, 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 really wrong on that one because it became a great week of stuff to talk about across the video game world. So Mina the Hollower is a game that released earlier in the year from Yacht Club Games, and just want to announce that game has sold 500,000 copies. So congratulations to them. It seems like a lot of people are enjoying that game. There is a demo available of that, and I could see myself playing some Mina the Hollower at some point in the future. So Yacht Club Games says the adventure is just getting started. A game has been added to Nintendo Switch Online plus the expansion pack membership and GameCube Classics for Nintendo Switch 2. So that's a lot to say in there. But Super Mario Strikers is now available on the GameCube section of Nintendo Switch Online. So that's what you need to know. And you can leave it all on the field. It's game time. The original release of this game is from 2005. I had a ton of fun playing this game back in the day. And I think it's pretty cool that it's on current platforms and you're able to play online with your friends if you want to. Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD Remaster has been announced that it's going to get a Switch 2 version. The Switch 2 version is coming out on July 23rd. It's going to be $49.99 USDs, which I believe is the same price as the current version that they're selling, but it often goes on sale for $20 or $10 a lot of time. And the kind of confusing part about this is the Switch save data is not going to be compatible. So you're not able to transfer your save over. You're not able to upgrade. These are two completely different SKUs. For one of the classic, most beloved favorite Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy X. All right, one of my favorite games of all time and a Dep Lewis Show Game of the Year award winner, Splatoon 3, has an upcoming Splatfest, which I always like to try to participate in if I can. And this one's actually a month away, so I have plenty of time to prepare. This Splatfest is going to be taking place on July 10th through the 12th. It's going to be a new Splatoon Raiders collaboration, Splatfest. So Splatoon Raiders is the new single-player Splatoon game that's coming out this year, I believe over the summer. Or I think it must be during this kind of time frame in July. And this special Splatfest is going to ask, what's your fighting style, speed, power, or tactics? And, my immediate thought would probably be speed if I had to pick something from Splatoon 3. Maybe more naturally across more games, it would be power, and then tactics would be my least. But now I'm going to have to make a decision on which team I choose a little bit closer to the Splatfest, and I would definitely let you know. So maybe we can all ride together on the same team to try to win the Splatfest at the end of that weekend. So upcoming Splatfest in Splatoon 3 on July 10th through July 12th. And the last bit of news I want to tell you about this week that I knew a Joy-Con 2 color has been announced. This one is Splatoon related, so it's blue and yellow. It's coming on July 23rd. It's the same basic style as the other Joy-Con colorways that have been announced. So it's basically a black controller with a little bit of blue and yellow accents. But this might be one I consider getting down the line since I do love Splatoon and would like to have a backup set of Joy-Con 2 at some point. So plenty of video game information to take in, talk about, consider. And that's everything for the midsection that I have for you this week. So we talked about everything. We talked about those Xbox upcoming layoffs at the beginning of this section, and I will definitely keep you up to date on what's going on there. We talked about the Xbox Game Showcase. We talked about the Nintendo Direct that took place last week, and then we got into a few other updates on Mina the Hollower, Super Mario Strikers, Final Fantasy X, Splatoon 3, and the new Joy-Con 2 colorway coming out on July 23rd. So that's everything I got for you for the midsection of the show. That's all the video game talk, but there's still one final section to go. The miscellaneous talk section. It's usually pretty short and sweet. I actually have a couple more updates than normal to tell you about in the final section, so please come back after this music. Welcome back to the final section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 184. This is a miscellaneous talk section where I can talk about anything I want to outside of the video game world. So as always, I like to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. And the Atlanta Braves have actually just started, they actually play in about 15 minutes from now, so I'm going to be watching that after this show. But that's the main sporting event going on today for me. But catching you up on all my favorite teams, starting with the NFL. The Carolina Panthers are my favorite team, and they have signed a free agent to an extension, which I'm excited about. So Jalen Coker agrees to a 3-year deal worth $35 million with incentives up to $41 million. I think pretty much putting him in place for the second, number 2 receiver on the Panthers beside Tedero McMillan. So Jalen Coker was set to be an exclusive rights free agent this year and a restricted free agent next year, and he'll be set to be a free agent again at 27 years old. So very, very exciting. He's had some great chemistry and production with Bryce Young so far. He's very, very tough for a smaller receiver and really, really makes some exciting plays and can take it to the house. And I'm just happy he's a Panther. He was a not a high draft pick, and it's nice to see him get paid handsomely. And I'm glad that Jalen Coker is going to be a Panther for 3 more years at least. So other than that, it's the offseason for the Panthers. I'm looking forward to the preseason beginning on August 6th. So a couple months away, they're going to be playing the Cardinals out there for the Hall of Fame game to kick off the preseason. And then for the NBA actually just wrapped up last night. The New York Knicks are the NBA champions. They beat the Spurs in 5 games, so pretty quick exit there in the finals. But the Knicks are a good team. It's pretty cool to see Jalen Brunson win. He's a fun player to watch, and I don't really have too much love for the Knicks, but I think that it's a pretty cool version of the Knicks, and rightfully so. It's nice to see. Everyone was kind of assuming that the Thunder were going to be on some type of crazy streak, or even the Spurs. Maybe the Spurs are a little bit too early, but the Knicks came in and got one. I know all of New York is extremely happy because it's been a long time coming. And even friend of the show and friend of real life Ballness, he's a New York resident, and he's over there happy about the Knicks. So, go Knicks. Congrats to them on winning the NBA Finals. But for my favorite teams, I'm halfway a fan of the Hornets. It's the offseason for them, or I guess it's the offseason for all the teams now. We're looking forward to the NBA draft on June 23rd, which is, I guess, they won't be in the upcoming week, but the week after. So pretty close to the NBA draft. The Hornets have picks 14 and 18 in the first round. And then my favorite team in the NBA, the Atlanta Hawks, they, looking forward to the draft there too, June 23rd. They have the 8th and 23rd pick in the first round. But since I've last talked to you, the Hawks have agreed to a multi-year contract extension with head coach Quinn Snyder. So I don't think I've had too much positive to say about Quinn Snyder, and this one is a little bit of a head scratcher for me as well. Quinn has been with the Hawks since 2022-2023 season. It doesn't seem like the actual terms of the extension are out yet, but I think the agreement has been made between the Hawks and Quinn Snyder. So I think this has been a bad marriage between the GM, between the roster construction and Quinn. I don't know which one is necessarily related to the other. I guess I would maybe blame the front office more. But, either way, they haven't been able to figure out this thing together as a team, and it's definitely a bad time to be a Hawks fan. So it's the offseason for them. I'm looking forward to the draft, still trying to get over the Trae Young trade, and, I guess maybe with the season being over, it's time to fully really move on and see how it's going to go. But it was a really, really rough second half of the year for the Hawks, and I hope that does not continue, but that will probably be the case. But Knicks are the champs right now. All right, and then my favorite sport in the universe, Major League Baseball. The Braves are playing today at 1:40, so it is 11 minutes away from real time, so I'll be trying to get this podcast out and then start watching baseball for today. But since last week, the Braves closed out last week playing the Pirates, and the Braves won 3-2. So they closed out last week with a win against the Pirates. Monday was an off day, which has been the case for a couple weeks now in a row. Tuesday, the Braves started a series with the White Sox up in Chicago, but it was not too successful. On Tuesday, the Braves lost 5-6 in 10 innings. Wednesday, at the White Sox, the Braves lost 1-2, and then Thursday at the White Sox, the game was postponed. So, the Braves just taking L's and then taking a postpone because of the weather. Friday, the Braves started a series with the Mets up there at the Mets. And I didn't watch the game Friday because it was on Apple TV, and I've been kind of refusing to, keep signing up for different subscriptions just to watch like one-offs. But the Braves lost 5-7, and the saddest part about this game last Friday was Spencer Strider left with an injury, and they're saying his right arm soreness. His fastball was down to 87, 88 miles per hour in the 4th inning, so definitely something wrong there, and just troublesome stuff to see because it's been a long time coming on Strider's rehab. And a setback now is obviously going to be bad, and I think just really, really sad overall with how Strider's career early on was going. It's just been a lot of trouble, and it's been he was kind of getting back in the groove there, and this is another setback. So I guess basically just T's and P's to Strider, and hopefully he can get back healthy and get back performing at a productive way for the Atlanta Braves. That would be best for everybody. So T's and P's to Strider. I hope it's not a really, really devastating injury. And then yesterday at the Mets, the Braves won 3-1. The Braves are going to play the Mets again today at 1:40, like I've been saying. And then next week, the Braves are going to get another off day on Monday. They're going to be playing the Giants 3 times in Atlanta, and then they're going to be playing the Brewers 3 times in Atlanta for next week. So, quality teams to play all of next week, but the Braves are doing really, really great, and that is awesome news. We've seen I think Ronnie got placed on the IL. It doesn't seem like it's too serious. Maybe just kind of pulled his hamstring again. So I think they just need to be extremely cautious with him. That would be my hope of just, take as much time as you need. Maybe let him just DH and hopefully just be extremely healthy and able to go full go by the playoffs would be nice. But other than that, the Braves have been doing great and really, really fun to watch. So go Braves, and I hope they will beat the Mets today as always. So that's everything I got for you for the final section of the show. We talked about all my favorite teams. We talked about the Panthers. We talked about the Hornets. We talked about the Hawks. And we talked about the Braves. So that's going to wrap up the final section and going to wrap up the entire show. So I'd like to reiterate some promotional talk from the beginning. Please follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch me play some games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. So I thank you so much for listening. If you do notice, if you like listening to the podcast on YouTube, I have upgraded my YouTube video a little bit. I've put like a waveform in the back, so it's not just kind of like a screen showing Dep Lewis Show. So my podcast is audio only everywhere, but hopefully a little more visually appealing on YouTube. I am going to start doing a little bit of changes to the title. I'm going to try to create a title each week for the show and then have Dep Lewis Show episode, whatever number it may be after it. So I'm going to try to, I guess that's, something I read that can maybe, draw a little more interest or, get my podcast into the search engines a little more. So I think that's a pretty quality idea. And it allows me to try to pick or it challenges me to try to pick some type of creative title each week. So please look forward. You'll see I changed last week's episode trying to do that change, and I'm going to try to continue with that format going forward. So just a little bit of a cosmetic change there, but something you might notice out there in the world. So I hope you have a wonderful week out there in the world, wherever you are. If things are going your way, I hope that continues. If things are not going your way, I hope that changes. I will probably be playing some more Forza in the upcoming week. I might get on another Pokemon game kick. You never know. I'm going to definitely be watching some baseball. I'm going to definitely be hoping it's not as hot out in the world because it's been pretty brutal out there. And I'm trying to think what else is going on in the upcoming week I want to talk about. No more basketball for a while, so we're in the part of the year where it's just baseball, but that's my favorite sport, so that is okay with me. I guess the World Cup is going on right now, so that's been pretty fun to watch. The USA won their first game against Paraguay, and I've been watching some of those games. I think there's like 4 or 5 games on today, so it's been pretty exciting, and they're playing those across North America. So some of those even going on in the U.S. So shout out to the football and the soccer. That's really, really fun to watch, and something maybe I'll talk about that more next week, possibly in the final section. But that's everything I got for you this week. Have a great one. I will talk to you next time, and thank you as always. Goodbye.